Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks again for joining us at Online Home Church. It's great to see your bright and shining faces all over America, and it's great to see bright and shining faces here in our living room in Florida as we celebrate Independence Day this year with a large group of teenagers and college students. So we're glad that everyone's here to join us today. Our dog Cowboy is always, as I like to say, on the wrong side of the door. Jackson, would you mind letting him out? Thank you. Independence comes with things like ownership of animals, and you've got to take care of your animals. If they need to go, it's just let them out, even though you're in the middle of church. So everybody, happy Independence Day to you, and welcome to Online Home Church. You know, the beginning of our service this morning featured a song that, for those of us who live in Atlanta and like to go to Braves games, is one we know well. In between the seventh inning stretch, Timothy Miller, who is a singer and really a master singer for the Atlanta Opera, likes to sing "God Bless America" to the audience in the seventh inning stretch, and we listened to him this morning. It begs a great question as you listen to that awesome song and the way that he sings it with such passion. What does it mean to say "God Bless America"? This is something that's been debated now for 240 years. I think we're at our 246th birthday tomorrow, if I've done the math right. What does it mean to say God bless America? Does it mean simply to say that God blessed us with America? That we as a free people who came here over the course of hundreds of years now sit here in 2022, the beneficiaries of God's trust in us to build a government by the people, for the people, and of the people? Are we here to rest on our laurels as Americans and say, God blessed us, aren't we cool? Or is it something that also charges us to act going forward into the future as free people, as those who are blessed by God with a gift that we have to take care of, just like Cowboy's a gift? We have to, that's awesome. We have to take care of the gifts that we've been given and make sure that they not only survive and thrive, but flourish. Cowboy is surviving and thriving. This is what everybody's laughing at outside our living room window as we speak. So it is in many ways a double meaning. We have been blessed by God to be here in the first place, but it's also a blessing by God that we have to take care of the government and the nation that we've been given. Lots of challenges to that duty, lots of challenges to that blessing. Not all bad. Sometimes you look around and say, well, it's been a crazy couple of years. You know, this church started out of the COVID pandemic, but now 2 years after COVID locked everything down in March of 20, we don't have to line up around stadiums to have people test us out of our cars. We could test at home. We don't have to drive our cars anymore. We can hop in an electric vehicle and it can drive us wherever we need to go. We are faced with really, from the perspective of the founders of our nation and the folks who wrote the Constitution, we are faced with a virtually unlimited set of challenges and decisions that they really would find, I think, difficult to imagine. And that's what, to me, makes it even more important when we say God bless America, that we think of what those challenges are and how we greet them. You know, the epistle today that Roy read to us is a letter that St. Paul wrote to the people of Galatia. It's a small church there in the Mediterranean, and he's writing them a letter to give them encouragement and say, hey, y'all are doing great, keep it up. But there's a sentence in there that in that letter to the Galatians that I want y'all to think about as we celebrate our independence and think about what it means for God, America. Paul says to the people of Galatia, let us not grow weary in doing what is right. Let us not grow weary in doing what is right. We've been in America as a nation for 246 years. And honestly, even before then, we were starting to feel the birth pangs of freedom that led us to celebrate July 4th, 1776 in the first place. And those folks, those patriots who helped us establish this nation, never grew weary in doing what is right. Now, over 2 centuries later, it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to think, man, that first Tuesday in November just isn't convenient for me to go stand in line and vote. And the place where I can go vote early really isn't that easy to get to either. It's easy to take that right to vote for granted. But if you just turned 18, it's important to register to vote and make sure you mark that day on your calendar, because it's a constitutional right that we have to exercise as Americans, and exercise in a way God calls us to. This is really important, everybody. God's not Republican or Democrat. He's not libertarian. He's not progressive. God just loves us, and he expects our love in return. And what that means is we have to find time, just like we hear about in our lessons today, we have to find time to let the Spirit into us so we can figure out what God is calling us to do. Let me give you a quick example, because we know so many young people now in the nation as a result of the age of our kids. Just in the last few months, I met a girl who is so devoted to her way of eating that she wants to help Americans become like her and be vegan. All they do is eat vegetables or things and foods that come from vegetables. That's her calling. She wants to go major in food science at some big school and specialize in helping everybody grow more interested in eating things that grow. Meanwhile, a kid from Dallas whose son is a friend of mine's son is very interested in going to Texas A&M and majoring in agriculture as well. But he wants to become a cattleman. All he loves is hamburgers and steak. And he wants to major in agriculture and become a cattle rancher in Texas. Isn't that something? Two people at 17 years old on directly opposite paths because they've prayed about it and God has called them to do it. Does it make the vegan right and the soon-to-be cattle rancher wrong, or vice versa? No. It means that they're trying to live into what God has called them to be. And so I hope that as we celebrate Independence Day and recognize that independence means choice and the freedom to choose to do as you please as an American and exercise all the rights that God has given us and that we've written down in the Constitution, that you take a moment to say, how am I using my independence to live in the Spirit? How am I using my independence to pursue the calling that God has given to me? It doesn't mean you necessarily need to decide on a career path right now. I'm going to be a cattle rancher. I'm going to be a proponent of vegan foods. It means that you're open to the Spirit, that God calls you in how you choose to live your life. And for those of you participating online this morning, this is not just a decision point for young adults and for teenagers. This is a decision point for all of us. In modern America, we're faced with decision every single point along the way. Is this someone that I trust to take care of my medical condition? Is this someone that I trust to put my money with and invest in? Is this someone that I trust to confide in and become a friend of mine? And if not, how do I handle that in a way that's graceful and that God would encourage? These decision points face all of us, regardless of what generation we're from. But the source of that challenge, the source of that challenge is the freedom that we celebrate here on Independence Day. And so I ask you to think, as we head into the week, and especially tomorrow, as we start to barbecue, whether it's corn or a hamburger, as we start to barbecue tomorrow and celebrate our independence, take a moment to reflect, not just on the hard work and the lives that were put into getting our nation free from the rule of the British, but what it's taken to have 246 birthdays as our nation, and what we can do as Americans, what we can do as God's people to keep that independence right where it is, thriving and sustaining us as we go forward into our next year. Amen. And now, with Christians around the world and across time, let's say together the Nicene Creed. Everybody, this is on page 358. Page 358.